A wonderful morning to everyone who has joined today. From Manage Engine family, we would like to extend our warm welcome and sincere thanks to all our customers, partners, and users who are interested in our solutions. Endpoint management and security is one of the main focus area of the Manage Engine. So we are renaming Desktop Central to Endpoint Central. You will be hearing a lot of buzzes in next 1 or 2 weeks. It should be official. So hereafter, Desktop Central is going to rename as Endpoint Central. Okay? For more information, you can go to the below URL to get to know more information about this renaming. So let me introduce myself. My name is Cyril Raja, and I'm a product specialist with Manage Engine. I take care of the endpoint management products, including Desktop Central. I'm a seasoned technical support engineer assisting customers in their implementation, consultation, and troubleshooting in case of any challenges. In today's webinar, we will focus on endpoint management solutions, which has different product portfolios under management and security. During today's session, we will be discussing Desktop Central Suite, which has management and security capabilities. Once again, welcome to Desktop Central Training. Let's look at the training schedules. We are on the last week of Season 6, which is setting up legacy devices and onboarding modern devices. This is one of the modules of our Endpoint Management and Security Suite. We have covered a couple of modules over the past week, and we are currently running on week 6 of this training session. In case if you have missed any of our training schedules, you can always view them on the link that is shown at the bottom of the screen. If you are interested in the upcoming training series, please use the same link to register yourself. Now, we do offer participation certificate to all the attendees in this session. Please note that your participation certificate includes the series 1, 2, and 3. And you can visit the below URL for more details. Let's look at the today agenda for that is setting up legacy devices and onboarding modern devices. We will have an overview of Desktop Central. Then we will be having a look at the architecture behind how Desktop Central works and how Desktop Central help you to adapt the digital workforce and how efficiently you are going to manage the work from home machines here. And with regards to configuration, we will look at some scenarios, including how we can configure a USB restrictions to all the machines in the domain that will do the endpoint lockdown. And we can also help you to roll out a collection of configuration to all the users in your infrastructure. In fact, even during the training, if you have any questions, please feel free to chat using the chat window. I have an expert panel with me who are ready to answer all your questions. Okay? So let us consider myself, John, and I'm responsible for managing around 10,000 endpoints, which is my company workforce here. So it's going to be a distributed model here. So with regards to the on-prem architecture, so I will be having my Desktop Central installed in my head office. I have around 3,000 machines in my head office. And the machines mentioned in my head office directly contact Desktop Central and download the patches. And we do have remote locations in Bogota, London, Chennai, and Sydney with different VPN connections. Okay? So in these locations, we will deploy a distribution server to throttle the bandwidth. We will see in greater detail once we get into the session. Likewise, Desktop Central is also available in the cloud too. So instead of spending money on your infrastructure for application servers and database servers, you can sign up for the servers and you can get the console, you can download the agent, and you can roll out to the remote machines and get it managed. So let's see what are the awards and recognition Desktop Central have. Desktop Central is recognized for Best Unified Endpoint Management Tool of 2021 as reviewed by customers in Gartner's Peer Insight Customers' Choice Award. We are recognized for Unified Endpoint Management in Magic Quadrant for the second consecutive year. We are recognized for both traditional and modern management. What is Desktop Central? Desktop Central is an endpoint management solution that ensures all your endpoints are secure and enables the user to use them effectively for business. A popular research analyst called Foster defined UEM as follows. Product that provide a centralized policy engine for managing and securing employee laptops and mobile devices from a single console. With Desktop Central Unified Endpoint Management, you will be able to manage desktops, laptops, mobile phones, tablets, servers, point-of-sale devices, and browsers, all this from the single console. In Unified Endpoint Management, you can manage endpoints in a traditional IT management fashion that includes patch management, application management, configuration deployment, OS deployment, tools for troubleshooting, and day-to-day management activities. Similarly, endpoints can be managed with modern management too. With Windows 10 operating system support modern management, it also supports features like geo-tracking, geo-fencing, managing store application, profile distribution to enforce restriction, and operating system reset and recovery. So let's see how Desktop Central works in a typical enterprise. So this is how Desktop Central need to be deployed on an enterprise. So here you have Desktop Central in your head office. Once you install the product, you will have a web console to access the product. Okay? So you can integrate your Active Directory to push the agents. And we do have multiple methods to install the agent. We'll explain in detail. And in case if you have a remote location, we can also have a distribution server over there. So this distribution server responsible for bandwidth throttling. It is used to throttle bandwidth for the data traffic between the central server and the remote location. We will talk about in the detail as we go into the training. We can choose to have a machine either directly connected with Desktop Central or with the help of a distribution server. You will be able to manage all the roaming users or mobile devices with the help of Secure Gateway 2. With Desktop Central, you can manage multiple domains as well as workgroups here. You can deploy configuration targeting Active Directory groups, organization units. So this is how the Desktop Central architecture to be deployed on an enterprise on-premise solution here. So next thing, so this is how the cloud architecture looks. Advantage of using a cloud architecture is we will maintain the hardware and no need for a public IP and no need for any failovers here. Okay? We are responsible for managing all the hardware, failover, and maintenance of database here. Okay? So you will be sign up for the product. Likewise, you have an option to directly connect to the cloud server, or else you can have a distribution server here. So the major difference between the on-prem and the cloud model is in the on-prem solution, your Desktop Central server directly go to the vendor website and download the content, and then it will distribute to the distribution server, and then it will redistribute through intranet. In the cloud model, your distribution server will directly talk to the vendor website and download the content on your command, and then it will redistribute through intranet. And likewise, the roaming users without a secure gateway, they will contact directly to the Desktop Central cloud server. And if you are deploying a patch or a software to the users who is working from home, they will directly go to the vendor website and download the content and get it installed. When they come back to office, they will map it to the nearest distribution server. So we have the detection logic automated. So once they come back to office, they will get the patches from distribution server. When the users working from home, they can connect directly to the vendor website and download the patches. Desktop Central also available in AWS Marketplace and Azure. In case if you're looking to host Desktop Central in any one of the cloud server, you can use AWS and Azure as of now. So Desktop Central can be also used for a closed network. And what is a closed network? A network which does not have a connectivity to internet or limited connectivity is called a closed network. Even if you have a closed network architecture, you can still use Desktop Central to manage your endpoints. Let's talk about the 90 minutes refresh policy. So actually, this is a core. This is going to be the core changes. Let us say if I modify this policy, the changes or anything in this policy, the deployment will not go well. So Desktop Central can scale small as well as large networks using our 90 minutes refresh policy. So what is 90 minutes refresh policy? Every agent communicates with the Desktop Central server once in 90 minutes. Even if you have 90 machines or 900 or even 9,000 machines, the 90 minutes will be divided between them and each machine will be given a specific time to talk with the server. The server has the intelligence to assign a time for each client to talk to the server. This is to avoid network congestion or bandwidth related issues. So the 90 minutes refresh policy is designed in such a way that load to the server will be split evenly. So these are the components which we needed to run the Desktop Central. There are essential as well as optional components. The Desktop Central server is a central component that you will install. It will provide the interface to the master console. The agent is also an essential component. You need this to be installed on the machines that you want to manage. There is another component called the notification server, and it's an interesting component. We will talk more about this once we go into the product. When we look into the optional components, we have a distribution server, which serves as a repository for patches, softwares, scripts that you have deployed to machines in the remote office. We can create unique replication policies for each location as per the bandwidth requirement. Then we have the secure gateway server. This is useful for managing the machine which is not part of your LAN or your lease line. So this is to manage the machines which is on the open internet. We do have the failover server. In case if you want to have high availability, you can make use of this. This is separately licensed. Moreover, you can also use a language pack to list web console in your preferred languages. So we support 3 operating systems as of now: Windows, Macintosh, as well as Linux. Please find the list of supported operating system in the screen. So we support Windows Client, Windows Server, Mac OS, and Linux OS. So you can able to deploy patches, softwares, and you can get to know the inventory, and you can also take a remote control for all these flavors from the single console. So since it's an on-premises solution which we are going to discuss, these are the ports which need to be open for managing the machines which is in your infrastructure. Desktop Central runs primarily on 2 ports, A3, which is HTTPS, and the agent talks to the server with the help of this port. There is another port, 8027, which is TCP. This is used by the notification server. So here, the data transfer and the communication will happen over the port A3, and this 8027 is responsible for all the on-demand connection. So with the help of A3, the agent will talk in a 90 minutes of interval. So let us say if I'm not having 8027 enabled, you are not able to deploy or perform any on-demand action. So let us say if I want to deploy a patch now itself, this 8027 calls this end users, the agent deployed on the end user's machine. Once it's get the call, it will talk to the master server with the help of A3 and get the content, and it will get deployed. So these 2 ports, that is A3 and 8027, it's mandatory for performing agent communication to the master server. Few other optional ports. Let's say if you want to take a remote control or if you want to do your voice and video chat, you need to open the port 8443. And if you want to do the file transfer over the internet or the machines which is in your network, you need to open the port 8031. And you can also, if you are using the distribution server, this distribution server will need to serve the patches to the agent which is under to that remote location. The agent which is on the remote location uses this port 8384 and talk to the distribution server and collect the binaries. So we do have a HTTP port too. If there is a need for opening this particular port within your infra, you can make use of it too. So let's talk about how we can install the product and roll out the agent to manage the machines which are, or the users who is working from home and the machines which is in your office. Okay, so let me take you to the desktop central console. So this is how the console looks like. So it's a browser compatible tool. You can access the product anywhere within your infrastructure. So you can see, I'm working from home. I can access it with the help of a public FQDN here, and I'm logging with the username and password. So you have both local authentication as well as AD-based authentication. Okay? So both two authentications are available here. And you can also integrate your SAML or your federation services to step into the master console. So you can download the product from the website. So you have a 30 days of free trial for the product. You can download it from here. In case if you want to sign up, you can do the sign up from the same page. So let's assume we are going to deploy an on-premises solution here. So I'm going to download it and I will be installing the product to the machines. And we will give you the best practices and what is the hardware sizing needed for deploying the product. So Desktop Central scale up to 30,000 endpoints. So in a single instance, you can manage up to 30,000 endpoints here. Okay, so this is how the console looks like. So the first and foremost step, this Desktop Central was installed in my office network. So I'm able to manage the machines which is in my infrastructure. So even though the machines on a different location, I can manage it with the help of this particular installation. Let us assume I have users who's working from home and I also want to manage them. So in this case, Secure Gateway comes into the picture. Okay, so we already installed Desktop Central. With the help of that, I can manage VPN users as well as the users who is in my remote locations. Okay? If I want to manage the users on the public internet, I need this Secure Gateway server. Secure Gateway server act like a front-facing server for Desktop Central. So this is actually a design reverse proxy for Desktop Central itself. You can get it only from us, and this is used only for Desktop Central server agent server communication here. Okay? So since it's an on-premises tool, we need this component in a DMZ zone. So I need a computer on a DMZ zone, and I will install this Secure Gateway server service in that, and I will assign a public IP to this machine, and I will open the ports like 8383, 8027, and the agent communication ports and the remote control ports will be open from the DMZ zone here. Okay, so here the agent which is installed on the end user's computer knows to communicate over a public IP or a public FQDN or a private IP or a machine name. If any one of the way the communication is successful, you can deploy a patch or a configuration, or you can even take a remote control from this central console. Okay, so first we install the Secure Gateway. So I will run through a quick video how we can install a Secure Gateway with the help of. So here is a quick video here. So you can download the Secure Gateway from under the admin section. So under the admin section, you have the Secure Gateway option here. You can select it. So once you enter to it, the component will be downloaded from the same page, the Secure Gateway server page. So I can download the component from here. And the Secure Gateway need to be installed on a different computer. So it's recommended to install on a different computer. Let's install it. So during the installation, it will ask for the computer name, which installs the master server, that is desktop central server. Just give the desktop central server name and IP address here, server name, and or an IP address, or the HTTPS ports, that is 8383, and give the username and password which you use for logging into the console. Once the authentication is done, the certificate which is installed on the desktop central server will copy to the secure gateway server and get it installed. So here, by default, we use a self-signed certificate from Manage Engine, and that certificate is responsible for agent-server communication. So the certificate copying in place, and the installation will be done. And now, once the installation is done, you can see that page, like the same admin secure gateway server page, like it was successful. You can see the green check mark here for all this. So that's how you install secure gateway here. Okay. Once the secure gateway is configured, you can now start distributing the agents. You can now start distributing the agents for the VPN users, as well as the users on your remote office, as well as the LAN and over the internet here. For creating the agents, so you need to go to the admin tab. So by default, you have an agent tab here. Under that, you see computers, and a default remote office will be here, that we call it as a local office. So this local office will, agents need to be used for the machines as well as desktop central should be on the same network. So you can download the agent and you can get it installed here. In case if you want to generate an agent for the roaming users, you can create a remote office named roaming users, and you can use direct communication, because the users on the public internet directly contact to the desktop central or communication, as well as downloading the patches. So you can also create a policy like what would be the data transfer rate from the desktop central server to the clients which is on the public internet. And you can also define the replication window here. Okay. So you can define your window, and that's how you create an agent for roaming users. Likewise, you can also create agent for the users who is on a different location. So let us say I have an office in London, and I need a distribution server here. So there are around 1,000 endpoints in my London office. So if I'm not having a distribution server on my London office, all the 1,000 endpoints comes over my lease line and download the patches and softwares here. That will choke my network bandwidth. If I have a distribution server on that London location itself, it is going to act like a file server, and whatever the patches and softwares needed for that particular location is going to replicate to this machine which is on London, and then the computers which is on London, those 1,000 machines contact to this distribution server through intranet and download it. So you can also streamline and define a policy. Let us say I only have 10 Mbps connection between my head office to my London office. I can ask the product just to use 5 Mbps for the replication of patches and softwares. It's going to anyway replicate once, and you can define at what time you want to do the replication. Okay? So you can define the window. So in case if I want to do the replication in my non-business hours, you can also define the window to here. So at this time, whatever the patches or softwares which is responsible for that particular location, it's going to replicate to the distribution server. So likewise, I can create each and every location which I'm going to manage. So in case you want to have one global agent, means you can give the roaming users agent to them, and you can define the IP scopes for all the locations. Okay. Once you define the IP scopes based on the communication, so let us say I have a roaming user agent and I'm coming back to office, and once I connected to my LAN or Wi-Fi, desktops and understood this machine is not in the public internet, it is on my office, and it will map it to the nearest distribution server. Likewise, if one travel to one location to other location, the movement will be automated, and we are able to understand the machine belongs to a different remote office, and it can get the patches from the nearest distribution server. Okay? So you can also integrate your AD. So in terms of pushing the agent, you can also integrate your Active Directory, and from that you can push the agent from the console itself. We do have a few other ways to deploy the agents. We can also give you a GPU script, either it's a startup script or a GPU scheduler. We can give it to you. You can install the agent, and a few other ways in case if you have any of the deployment tools like SSCM or Intune, we can give you the package for the same as well as scripts. You can make use of those deployment tool to roll out the agent, and you can also deploy the agent along with the OS too. That's also available. So if you find a way to install an agent, you can get it managed from the single console here. Likewise, let us say if a user who is working from home or standard users means, you can also infuse the credentials to the agent and you can send it to them. They can install it on their own. Once the installation is done, the machine will directly contact to the desktop central server. So if you want the details, you can very well get in touch with the chat panel. They will share you the respective link for it. Okay? So that's how you onboard a computer in the product. So we have discussed about the product installation and secure gateway configuration and what are the types we can install the agent. Let us say in case if you want to have a failover. So we do have a failover option here. Let us say I have my desktop central in my DC, and in my DR I can have another computer which have the application server in, and the application servers which is on my DC and DR, it should be having a shared database as well as file system. So the patch repository and the software repository should be shared to these two computers, and it should have an MS SQL database, either enterprise or a standard edition for handling the data threads. So let us say if a machine on my primary data center went down, it will do an automatic switchover, and the machines which is on every location will contact to the secondary server automatically in a 3 to 5 minutes of time. So that's how you can make use of this high availability, and so that the operations or deployment will happen without any delay. Let's have a quick look about how we can deploy configurations with the help of the product. Okay, so now I'm going to create a configuration to block all the USBs ports in the computers, and I'm going to allow few computers. Let us say the leadership team only need to connect their external hard drive. So rest of the team going to be get it blocked. Okay? And even though I connect a secondary devices, it should be an encrypted one. Okay? So let's create a configuration for this. So configurations in a layman term. So this will completely eliminate your GPU dependency. So let us say if you want to deploy a user-based or a computer-based policy like in GPU, you can deploy it from the console here. So all the feature, all the configuration push can be happen over the internet too. So let us say if a user working from home and you want to deploy a wallpaper, you can do it. And likewise, if you want to add a local user on the machine, you can very well create a local user and map it to the respective groups, and you can deploy legal notice, and you can create a firewall rules, and you can push it. We have our own script repository here, so you can add your scripts here. So these are the script formats we support. You can upload the scripts and you can deploy the same from the configuration here. So in our case, I'm going to create a USB configuration. So as you see, there are two types of configuration here. One is user and the computer one. If I deploy a configuration to a user, even though he moves to a different computer and logged in, this policy will apply on the system startup itself. If I deploy to a computer, it will limit it for that computer box alone. So even though multiple users log into the same computer, this policy apply for all of them. Okay? So I'm going to the computer configuration here. So this is the place I need to define what devices I need to be blocked. So I'm going to block the disk drives as well as the portable devices here. And in case if you want to add any exclusion, you can give the device instance ID, it will get excluded. Or if you can give the vendor-based instance ID, you can do it. In our case, the managers need to be used only the encrypted devices. So I'm adding only the encrypted devices here. And this is a place you need to target it. So I'm going to target all the users in my infrastructure. So this is going to deploy to all the users here. And in case if you want to deploy to a selected group or a few computers or a single computer or in IP range, that is also feasible here. And you can also have an option to exclude the targets too. So here I can exclude it. So here I can exclude the target. So that means the whoever belongs to this particular group, they will not get the USB policies. They can use the USBs in their computer. And you can also see the configurations, like in case of retry, you can ask the product how many times you need to retry this. You can do that. You can initiate the retries during the system startup or during the refresh policies. And after the deployment, it will also send an email to you, so that there's no need for you to be in the console, in front of the console every time. Okay. So, and you see two buttons here, deploy and deploy immediately. If you click deploy, this configuration will deploy in next refresh cycle. That means in next 90 minutes, the configuration will get rolled out to the end user's machine. If I click deploy immediately, at this time, the 8027 port comes into the picture. So it helps you to deploy the configuration next 5 or 10 minutes. So it is responsible for deploying all the on-demand deployment with the help of the product. Okay, so that's how you deploy a configuration. And you can see the status of the configuration deployed here. So you can see the status here, how many machines it is deployed, how many machines it's failed, how many machines succeeded. So you have a complete end-to-end understanding, how many machines are succeeded, how many machines are in progress, how many machines are deployed here. So you have a clear picture, and you have the configuration reports too. So you can get to know what configuration deployed to a user, and what configuration deployed to a computer, and what type of configuration deployed, what computers has those configuration. So you have a better idea from the reports here. Okay? So that's all from my end. Let me ask Ruben to take over from here.
Thank you, Cyril. Yeah, let me share my screen now. And yes, I'll demonstrate about how you can onboard the mobile devices into the desktop central unified solution. So as you know, endpoint is all of not just laptops and desktops. Every single device type has been considered as an endpoint in this market condition now. So I'm going to demonstrate how you can onboard the smartphones and tablets. And also I'll show you how we can onboard the laptops and MacBooks using the Azure AD and Apple Business Manager, like over-the-air enrollment. Let's see about that. Before I move on, please confirm if you're all able to hear my voice and view the presentation. Let me wait for some confirmations before I proceed. Thank you. So like I mentioned, in line to talk about what Cyril have just left over, he was discussing about how you can onboard the laptops, like how you can install the desktop central agent on the laptops using group policy or using domain join mission, how you can use the product portal to remotely distribute, like where you can go to agent tab and select the appropriate domain and do it. So these missions might already been activated and it is in use, and you're trying to install the agent on such devices or such laptops so that you can bring into our desktop central portal for patching or remote control and all of the features. But what if in case if you have some brand new laptops and you'll have to perform out of the box enrollment, you're not sure which laptop belongs to which user. So these are all, you have around hundreds and thousands of laptops in your store, but beforehand you want to make sure the desktop central agent is deployed, and whenever the user raises a request or when a new user joins the company, at that particular time you want to hand over the devices to the technician, then you can make use of the Azure autopilot enrollment, where like you over the air, just by using the device serial numbers, you can activate the MDM profile. which in turn will lead the desktop central agent installation as well. So anyway, I'll explain about the process now. So when it comes to Azure enrollment, you'll have to integrate the desktop central MDM server with Azure AD, add the laptops or Windows 10, 11 laptops and desktops under your Windows Business Store portal, and then you can select the devices in bulk and distribute the MDM profile. So once the profile is distributed, what will happen is, if it since it is a brand new laptop or out of the box laptops, when the user just turns on the device, it automatically validates whether the serial number matches with any MDM profile. If so, it will download the MDM profile and the device gets registered within this portal. So you can see that under the MDM section. And once the devices are reported here, if you have the UEM license, that is Unified Endpoint License, either you install the MDM profile or you install the desktop central agent, you will get the complete management scope. So you will get to use all these features. That is how the UEM has been designed to. So now, in order to integrate your desktop central MDM with Azure Active Directory, you can go to this mobile device management tab, go to enrollment section, and you click on Azure enrollment, where you can see about the information like if you're using an on-premise based desktop central or MDM setup, you will have to update this MDM terms of use URL, MDM discovery URL, and app ID URL under the Azure portal, and you can integrate. So first, let me show you how we can do it for uh, the on-premise version. So as it even states in the portal, you'll have to have a valid third-party certificate added to the MDM, and you need to have an Azure administrator account. And if you're going to purchase or onboard 100 laptops using the Azure over their enrollment, like without physically having the device in hand, then you have to have the adequate user license as well. These are certain prerequisites. And the same has been explained under the portal itself. So how we can procure required licenses and all other information. A detailed picture and help article with pictures is also updated in the portal. So you can go through this to know about how to integrate either. So first, let me show you how we can integrate with your on-premise setup. For that, you go to Azure Active Directory. You will have mobility, MDM, and MAN. Here you can see the list of applications you have already added. If you're going to do it for the first time, you can click on Add Application. You can choose whether it is an on-premise, or if you have the Manage Engine MDM cloud version, you can directly click on this and save it. But if you're going with on-premise, you can click on this one, give a name, like say I'm doing it for UEM webinar. So I'll just give a name like this, add this server to the portal. Once this is done, I'll be able to click on this. And here is where I will have to update the appropriate terms of use URL. So every instance, every desktop central instance will have their own unique terms of use URL and discovery URL created. You will have to update those information here in order to integrate. So that is the first step. You integrate your MDM or desktop central with Azure AD. Once that is done, you go to the Windows Business Store portal. You have the devices section where you can create an autopilot deployment profile. That is where you can customize the deployment settings, like how you want to activate the device in. Like if I'm doing it for the first time, where you can choose the option whether I don't want my users to configure OEM registration steps and I want to disable the local administration on the devices and so on. You can choose whatever steps you want to enable or whatever steps you want to skip during the initial activation phase, and then you create a profile. Once the profile is created, then you go to the devices. Here you can see hundreds and thousands of devices in this list. I've already mapped all my test devices to my MDM profile. But if you're doing it on your setup, you can see the lot of device details here. You can select them and apply to the appropriate profile you created. Let me have a picture even here. So this is how it looks like. Where you can select the device, choose the appropriate deployment profile you created, and you're going to map these device serial numbers to our MDM, okay, after integration. So what will happen is, whenever the user turns on the device, the serial number is mapped, so it validates and then downloads the MDM profile. and the device gets registered within the portal. So the administrator can see the devices under this particular devices section, and you will know, even if you have selected hundreds and thousands of devices in bulk and assign it to this MDM, you can see all your laptops under this staged tab. So you're not sure whether this device belongs to appropriate users. It all comes and weighs under the user assignment tab. Now, whenever a new employee or joins the organization, or when another user raises a new hardware request, then you can assign the appropriate device serial number to the user who have raised the request for, and then you can map the users to them. Okay, then the device goes from the stage section to the manage tab, and you get to make use of the MDM scope. Like, unlike the Cyril explained about USB blocking, and you had sessions about patching, software installation in the previous weeks. Now with an MDM even, you'll be able to locate your laptops. Additionally, you'll also be able to find out where exactly the laptop is. You will have that option under the mobile device management inventory. And when aligned to that, you do have options to remotely wipe your laptop, and you'll be able to do a complete wipe and corporate wipe. So these are the scope of features which you can use it for laptops and MacBooks within the MDM as well. Okay. So that's how we select the profile and deploy. And now when it comes to MacBook, like how we integrate with Azure AD and deploy the required profile, same way for MacBooks, you can integrate with Apple Business Manager. So you have the Apple enrollment section on the left pane. You can go to servers, add your MDM server to the Apple Business Manager portal. So it's simple. You'll have to download the certificate file from Manage Engine, sign into your Apple account. Like, maybe I'll use this option itself. You're going to sign into your ABM portal, and you'll have to upload the file which you have downloaded from Manage Engine website. And you will have to upload the required details, and that will generate another token. Like, Apple will give you another signed token which needs to be uploaded back here. So this is like a two-way handshake, where you download the file from our MDM and then upload it on the Apple side, and Apple will generate another token which needs to be uploaded back here. So that's how we can integrate. Once that is done, similarly, like how Windows has the portal, same way Apple also has the list of devices they can report here, and through which you can select and choose the appropriate MDM profile you want to assign it to. Yep. So let me sign in and show you the options real quick. And the same workflow will also be applicable for onboarding iPads and iPhones. So that is why I wanted to show you with the UI level navigations on the integration as well. So you can go to servers here, add your server, download the file, go to preferences, add your MDM server. You have the plus option here, through which you can add your own MDM server. Say, similarly, I'll go to UEM webinar, and you can upload the file which has been downloaded from our website. You upload here, and that will give you another token which needs to be uploaded from here. Sorry, which needs to be downloaded from here and uploaded back to this MDM location. And here is where you customize the device activation settings. So like how I bypass the OEM registration and iTunes and other stuff. Same way for MacBook, you have the options where you can skip all these settings like Touch ID setup, Apple ID configuration, location services. So you have specific to MacBooks as well, where you can skip all of these initial configuration prompts, which users will be prompted when they turn on a brand new MacBook on their end. So similarly, you can select all the hundreds and thousands of MacBooks from here. Like, you can go to all devices, select all of them, and assign to appropriate MDM profile. When you click on edit MDM server, you will have the option to assign it to the respective MDM. So when you do this way, for example, even if you want to select one MacBook first, let me check with one MacBook, and then if it's working fine, then I'll go with the bulk deployment. Then you're going to select this MacBook alone or one or two, and then apply the appropriate MDM profile, assign it to this MDM profile which we have created. And when the end user just turns on the MacBook, it will automatically download the profile and it gets registered within the portal and you get to use them. So as long as no matter how many times the user resets the device or factory reset the device, since the serial numbers are tied up to this MDM, it will come back with the same profile install and admin can still manage all the time. Okay, so you get to see that device details here. So that is how you can onboard MacBooks and to it, through which you can add it to the Desktop Central portal. So either you install the Desktop Central agent and make use of all the feature, or either you onboard the MDM profile through this Azure enrollment or ABM enrollment for your laptop, and you get to use of patching and software, remote control, and inventory on all this stuff. Okay, so I want to talk about this before I take you to the mobile device onboarding process. And so let's see about the MDM architecture. So as you see about 90 minutes refresh policy and Azure server communication in Desktop Central for computer management. But when it comes to mobile management, the architecture is different. And that there are three major components which plays a vital role. The first is the server. First component is the server itself. Either it could be a Desktop Central UEM server, if not a standalone MDM server, that plays a role. Second, the notification services. So for managing smartphones and tablets, these notification services plays a vital role. For managing Apple phones, Apple push notification service will take care of it. For Android, Firebase cloud messaging service will be used. For Windows devices, Windows phones and Windows Surface apps, the Windows notification service will play a role. And third component is the end device itself. So that is, these are the three components which plays a role. And when it comes to understand the architecture, so like how exactly the device is managed. So you can wonder, like, for example, say you want to distribute an app to the device, or you want to find out the location of the phone or tablet or even laptops and MacBook. So these commands will be sent from the MDM server to the notification services. For example, if I want to find out the location of an iPhone or an iPad, the Apple push notification service will receive this command, will use the device UDID and serial numbers, will wake up the device, and device in turn will contact the server and execute it. So in this example, if I choose locate device, it's going to fetch the geo coordinates and send back to the server. The administrators can check those information in the mapical view under the portal. So that is how the communication flow will be. Server to notification service to device, device to server, execute the command and post back the status. And as Cyril have already explained about secure gateway. So if you don't want to expose your internal on-premise MDM or desktop center server, you can place a secure gateway component in your DMZ zone so that the internet devices will only reach the secure gateway and then redirect the communication internally. And these are the list of ports which is used for the standalone MDM. So this is how the desktop central portal looks like. And you will see enrollment, inventory, and all other options in the left pane. Whereas when it comes to standalone MDM, you will see them under the top section. The same tab, only difference is you will see there's a separate point product and the options will be on the top left, on the top corner. That's how it will be. And for standalone MDM, as I mentioned, these are the list of ports used, and you can know about the inbound and outbound port information under the below mentioned URL. And now here is where the question is. So as you know, even the MDM is also following the client and server model, like how we install the desktop central agent. Same way, you'll have to install the MDM app or profile in all your managed devices. And when it comes to Android phones or Android devices, you need to necessarily have the ME MDM app deployed. But when it comes to Apple, Windows, and Chromebooks, you don't need to necessarily deploy the application for management. We just leverage the native OS client available on these devices, and we will take control of the management part. It's like a certificate installation alone. Need not have the MDM app deploy like a separate application on the phone. But still having an app, having the ME MDM app will give you other benefits like self-service catalog, file sharings, and remote control, and so other options. But for management purpose, like I've stated, only for Android, you need to have the MEMDM app. But for Apple, Windows, and Chromebooks, we'll just leverage the native OS client. Now let me show you what are the different ways through which you can install this MDM app or profile on the devices for Android and Apple devices. And we can segregate that into two sections. When it comes to onboarding the devices, generally every admin will come and face the situation where they will have a task in front of them where their management would give them devices, and the devices might already be in use. It could be a company phone, but still it could have been already distributed to the user. And how and what are the ways you have to enroll such devices which is already in use? And we do have some couple of new devices which is in the store, and I want to add them as well. Now let me demonstrate and show you how you can proceed in onboarding the devices which are already in use and which are new. And when it comes to the devices which is already in use, you can go with two process. Like one, by sending an email or SMS invite, where the users can click on the invite, like they accept the invite, enter the OTP, register the phone. If not self-enrollment, they can do a self-registration, where you have a common URL shared across all the users through which they can also register the devices themselves. Let me show you one by one. And the benefits of going through this way, that is through this email invite or SMS invites are, and you might, as I mentioned, it could be used when the devices are personal owned, or it could be a BYOD device, like employee's own phone, which they need to register within the portal or within the solution in order to get the corporate apps, or in order to create a corporate space or a container created on the device. And even if you're migrating the devices uh, from an existing solutions to RMDM, you might be able to make use of these enrollment methods. Because when it comes to new devices or the devices which you do after factory resetting them, like from the initial welcome screen, you get a complete management scope, which I'll demonstrate in the upcoming slide. But when the device is already in use, or it could be a personal phone, which they need to add it in the portal, and for them, you can make use of this email invite and self-registration. And that will give you this benefit where it isolates the personal and corporate data. On the same phone, you can create a separate corporate container and you'll be able to manage it. When it comes to Apple devices, you will not literally see a separate a container created. Only on the functionality level, it works that way, where when you try to share any document from the corporate apps to personal app, it blocks them. And but when it comes to Android, you will literally see a separate workspace created. And you can also create a separate passcode just to access the corporate applications alone. You can have a separate passcode policies to prevent the corporate applications and corporate documents. And you can also prevent the file sharing from corporate apps to personal apps. So likewise, this invite method and self-enrollment will help you to secure the corporate applications and data on the same personal device itself. And let me show you the workflow of sending up the invites. So when it comes to sharing invites, it's going to be very simple, where an admin can go to the portal, choose the appropriate user email ID or telephone number, share the invites to them, which users can accept and scan a QR code or enter the OTP to register it. And let me show you how that looks like on the portal. And before that, when it comes to Apple devices, you need to necessarily have the APNS certificate added. So Apple does demands to have the APNS certificate added to every MDM instance you create, or every MDM instance every client has it. Because only if you have the APNS certificate added to your portal, you'll be able to manage it. For example, I have already created one, and you'll have to renew every 365 days. So only if this certificate is added to your portal, you will be able to add or manage your Apple devices, be it iPhone, iPad, or MacBook with an MDM. You need to have the certificate added. And this is just again a two-step procedure. So if you're doing it for the first time, you can either create an Apple ID using this link itself. If you already have one, you use the sign-in option and go to the APNS portal, download the file, and upload it in the APNS portal, which in turn will give you a signed certificate, which needs to be uploaded back here. That's it, just like a two-way handshake. And this will give you the scope of managing the devices. Like when you click on sign into the APNS portal, this is how the page looks like, where you can click on create a certificate, accept the terms and condition, upload the file which has been downloaded from the product. And once that is uploaded, Apple will give you a signed certificate which needs to be downloaded and re-upload back in the portal. So this is what the step I mentioned about. So once this is done, then you're good to go for onboarding the devices. And let me give you a quick walkthrough about how you can send out the invitation to the user. For that, you go to MDM, Enrollment, Devices tab, and you can click on Enroll Device, choose iOS or iPad OS, and you can, if you know the user's email ID directly, you can type in and search for the user's details and be able to send out invitations to them. If not, you can even type in the phone number and send out the invite. And when you do so, you can also choose that this device belongs to appropriate group. Like say this is a front desk technician, and when you assign a group to the tech, when you send out the invitation itself, when the user accepts the invite and registers the phone, automatically this device gets added to this particular group, which in turn will give them access to the appropriate applications and policies right at the beginning itself. Like right after the user have registered the MDM profile on the phone, you will start to receive the list of apps, policies, and documents shared to this front desk group. So which in turn will make the administrator job also more easy. So I don't have to add the device first, then go and distribute the required profile and policies, and it's going to be a lot of steps which needs to be done for making the device usage ready. But when I choose these grouping right at the initial enrollment phase itself, the device gets added and the user will also start to receive all the required applications and policies. So that is an advantage. And let me show you how the invite will look like. So if I send it to myself on the portal, I'll be able to see the invitation as well. Like this is the same template which will be shared across to the user as well, where they will get a link which will download the profile and they have to enter the OTP or scan this QR code. Let me show you how the images will look like and after clicking on this link. When the user clicks on this link, it will prompt them, it goes to the browser, prompts them to download the profile. Users needs to click on allow, which in turn will download the profile. And as soon as the profile is downloaded, the profile will not be installed on the devices. So Apple has a lot of secure mechanisms to make sure only the trusted profiles get deployed. So once after the profile is downloaded, user have to go to the settings tab, click on profile downloaded option, make sure this is the manage engine MDM profile, and then they'll have to click on install. And when they click on trust, it prompts them to enter the OTP or scan the QR code, which will register the device. So this is how you can share and invite the users from the portal, which in turn the users can follow the on-screen instructions on the device and it gets reported here. And if the user hasn't completed the step, you can see them enrollment invite is created. It is still pending for this user. And if the request has expired, because this request is valid for 7 days. And and also it is specific to an individual user. So you can check that status under the enrollment pending tab. If the user have completed their enrollment, it will get listed under the managed portal. So this is how the process is. And you might wonder why I have to go and click on enroll iOS device or Android device every now and then and send out the invitation. It's going to be taking a lot of task again. But you do have the bulk enrollment option where even if the devices are already with the user or with the employees, but still you want to send out the invitations to them for onboarding, you can make use of the sample CSV file where you can update the username, email address, platform type, whether it is iOS or Android, you can mention that and upload the CSV file here, which will send out the invitation in bulk. Like if you have the CSV file with hundreds and thousands of entries, it will send out the invitation in bulk. And you can also check those status under the enrollment pending status. That's how we can share the invitation and the users can register the devices through this way. And now when it comes to self-enrollment, this is also an ideal way because most of the organizations will even attach the self-enrollment link during the joining letter or the initial invite letter itself, where once after the devices are enrolled, then they get to receive the corporate apps and policies on the and documents on the devices. So I'll tell you this way, when it comes to self-enrollment, this is going to be a common URL for all the device types. It could be a Windows device, a MacBook, Android phone, an Apple device, any type of devices that all has a common link. And here you'll have to integrate with Microsoft on-premise AD in order to configure self-enrollment or self-registration. I'll tell you why, because the main reason is since you're providing this link to every user or any user can access this link and register the device, which will make sure they do get access to the corporate applications and policies. Obviously, we don't want to do that. That is why you have to integrate with AD and allow to the appropriate AD groups alone. You can either allow to all the AD groups, if not only the selected AD groups, so that only the selected AD groups you have updated here can only bring the devices themselves. Rest of all the users can register the device only when an admin send out the invite. Okay, so that is how the checkpoint here is. Because when it comes to an invite, you have an OTP to authenticate. But when it comes to self-registration, it is going to be the AD username and password. And also you can limit one user can onboard up to 2 devices or 3 devices only. So you can mention that even here. And also make use of the grouping. Like whenever an Android user adds, I want them to add it to the appropriate group. Likewise, you can configure the self-enrollment process here. Once this is saved, when the user clicks on the enrollment link, this is how they get to see where they'll get where they'll download the app and they have to mention the server details. And here is where the authentication step is, where they have to provide the AD username, password, and domain information and approve it. So the device gets registered. As you see, when it comes to the email or SMS invite, they'll create a separate workspace, and whatever app has been distributed to that device or to that group will have a briefcase icon like this. So that shows this is a work application. So when it comes to an email invite or self-enrollment devices, you'll have a separate corporate space created like this, and all the corporate applications will have a briefcase icon so that they cannot take a screenshot or share files across, and a lot of restrictions can be enforced on this particular workspace. That's about the existing devices in use. Now, when it comes to devices which are new, or it could be a company device, and you want to take complete control on those devices, let me show you how you can onboard them into our product. And as you know, when it comes to a new device, the initial setup like passcode, Wi-Fi, location service, touch IDs, and everything has to be manually done. And even an admin or user intervention is required. So how we can mitigate that and how we can bypass these initial configuration steps and onboard devices in bulk. That's what we offer Apple Business Manager. And for Android, we have Google Zero Touch and Knox. I've just showed you about Apple Business Manager. And when it comes to automated methods, like the devices which are registered from the initial welcome screen on the home page or the first welcome screen, you get a lot of benefits, like you have silent app deployment. Without waiting for the users to accept it, you can silently install application on the device. Main key feature is you can whitelist application. Like say you have some point of sale devices, or you have the devices which is used by the delivery technician, or if you are from the educational institution and these devices like iPads are going to be handed over to the student. So if you want to lock such devices with just 4 or 5 applications, and only those 4 apps should only be visible for them to use, then the enrollment has to be done through this automated way or the device owner method. So whitelisting is possible when you do this, do the enrollment through these techniques. And you can also have a control on the OS update. When you want, whenever Apple or Google releases an update, you can streamline, you can have a control and define a time frame for OS update as well. And also you have a complete support on all the profiles and configuration. Because when it comes to email or self-enrollment, only you can control the workspace. You only manage the workspace and whatever corporate apps you distribute, but you cannot control the personal level settings like camera, call options, messaging options, and uploading the documents in the cloud, adding personal accounts on the devices. Likewise, there are certain personal level settings which cannot be controlled by the administrators, but there is no concept of personal or corporate when the devices are onboarded through these automated way like Apple Business Manager, Zero Touch, Knox, and EMM. These will give you the complete scope of all the management features. So that these are certain benefits of the automated enrollment methods. And to onboard the devices through these methods, you'll have to have an Apple or Google account, and the devices needs to be purchased from the authorized reseller. So these are certain pre-required sites which needs to be met for onboarding the devices automatically. And the workflow is same way, like I've demonstrated initially about the Azure enrollment, where you need to integrate with MDM, add the devices to the portal and distribute it. Similar concept. Like for ABM, I've showed you already. So you can go to ABM portal, integrate. Like how I selected the MacBooks before, you'll have to select the iPads and iPhones here from the ABM portal, and you'll have to distribute. And once you select the required iPads and or iPhones and distribute, when the user turns on the phone, it automatically verifies the serial number again, and it gets to configure the MDM profile directly. The users cannot bypass the step, and no matter how many times they reset the device, it will still come back with the same MDM profile deployed. I'll tell you why. Because again, you are mapping the device serial numbers to the appropriate MDM photo. Like say, if I map this iPad to our MDM, no matter how many times it resets the devices, it will still come back with the same MDM profile deployed, and you get to see the devices here. As long as or until you release the device from this organization, or unless you unassign from the appropriate MDM server, the device will always be managed. So that is how the device will be managed using the profile. And as soon as they turn it on, it will validate and the device gets registered within the MDM portal. That's it. And for Google Zero Touch portal, you get to go to the Android section here. You have Zero Touch portal option. And same way, like how you download the certificate and add it in the Apple side, same way you'll have to copy this JSON data and update it in the Google Zero Touch portal. So this JSON data will have which server the device belongs to, what port it has to communicate with, what's the organization token ID. So this information needs to be fed on the Google portal. So you can make use of this login account to sign in. And then you create a configuration. So this is how the Google Zero Touch portal looks like. You click on add configuration, you update this JSON data under this DPC extras and create a configuration of your own choice by giving the required details. And then you go to devices, select the individual devices, a group of devices, and assign it to this configuration. Similarly, when the end user just turns on the device, it will start to connect to the server, that is connect to the Firebase cloud messaging service, which validates the serial number. And if the serial number belongs to this MDM, it prompts up to the manage engine MDM profile page. And you see the users cannot bypass it. Like, even if they hit on back, it will still go to the initial home screen like that, like, where you would see this very same page like this. If it is a brand new device, this is how the screen looks like. So it will still come back to this page. Once the user clicks on start, connect the device to Wi-Fi, then this page will come up. It sets up the device with Manage Engine, and the device enrollment will be completed automatically. So no user intervention is required, and the device will be usage ready. So this is how you activate the devices using Google Zero Touch or ABM or Knox. Knox is specifically designed for Samsung devices alone. Similarly, they do have a separate a Knox account which needs to be created. You'll have to you can create an account here, update our APK in the Knox portal, and start onboarding the devices. So these methods, which is explained in this architecture here. So the one which I showed you for the devices already in use can be onboarded via invite and self-enrollment. And what I just demonstrated now was ABM and Zero Touch enrollment. These are all the over-the-air enrollment because you don't need to physically have the device on hand and then register the devices. Just by using the appropriate portals, you can select the device serial numbers and map it with the appropriate MDM profile. And there are other methods also. So I'll put it this way. When it comes to enrollment under MDM, whatever methods you see on the top left, like sending an email invite or self-registration, these are all the methods available for the devices which are already in use, or which you want to create like a work profile, which is going to be a BYOD device. But when it comes to a new phone or a corporate phone where you want to take complete control, like whitelisting, remote control, and OS update controls, and so on, then you'll have to follow the enrollment methods mentioned under the Apple and Android section here. So these are the corporate enrollment methods, which will give you the complete scope. And that is what explained under the same photo. Okay, so you can see these methods here. All right, so these are the different ways through which you can onboard the devices into our solution. If you have any questions related to the onboarding process for desktop central agent or for mobile devices or tablets under MDM part, please feel free to post them in the chat section. We'll have the live Q&A session now where I'll select a couple of questions and answer your questions right away. Moreover, if you want to have a personalized demonstration where you want to have a one-on-one session with our senior technicians to discuss about your implementation or your setup, how you want to configure the product based on the business use case, you can also put that request in the chat box, and our panel team can help you in scheduling the demonstration based on the mutual convenient timing. All right, let me discuss some of the questions which has been raised in today's session now. So I can see the doubts about the configurations on USB. I believe Cyril have explained about how we can deploy the configuration, be it any type of configurations, USB or IP printer mapping or Wi-Fi configurations. You can all do that from this very same configurations tab. And you do have collections where, say, in a single collections, you want to choose what type of wallpaper the user have to keep, and what type of browser access they should have, and what are the restrictions you want to apply on the USB ports. Likewise, you can select multiple configuration under a single collection, like user or computer collection, and you'll be able to deploy. So when you go with user collection, no matter whichever computer the user logs in, based on the login prompt, it will automatically apply all these collections or configurations. But when it comes to computer collection, the settings, whatever you deploy, will stay on this machine, and any user whoever logs in, those settings will already be applied on the devices. When it comes to user-based configuration, it will the settings will apply right at the user login time. When it comes to computer configuration, because it could have been deployed immediately, no matter whichever user logs in, it will still have those settings already in place. And I saw about a couple of questions on the recording part and also on the certification side. So all the recorded sessions or all the training program will be sent over to the registered email address once after the webinar sessions are over, and you will also receive the certificate information via email. And I could see a question about through MDM, if you select to wipe a machine, what level of wipe is conducted? Does it mean so when it comes to wiping through MDM, either for a laptop or for a smartphone, you have two wiping options. One is a complete wipe, which will do a complete factory reset, which will reset everything. This is like resetting the PC. So which you choose here, system settings, and you reset the complete PC. This option will be triggered when you go with complete wipe. Whereas when you go with corporate wipe, whatever documents or whatever policies you distributed through our solution, only that will be wiped when you go with this corporate wipe. The same applies for mobile phones and tablet even. When you go with complete wipe, it deletes everything, it erases everything, and when it comes to corporate wipe, the settings, whatever distributed through our solution, will all be removed. And I could see about a question on the scripts, what type of scripts that can be deployed using the MDM. When you go to configurations tab, custom scripts, you do have an option which will prompt out the list of script types which you can update. Even if you want to execute a command on the command prompt, you do have an option for that. So you have a command line argument even, which you can update it. And when it comes to adding a script, so you'll have the list of files which has been updated here as well. All right. If you have any more questions, please feel free to post them in the chat. And as I mentioned, if you would like to have a one-on-one personalized demonstration, please feel free to request that also in the chat box. Please rate us on a scale of 1 to 5, and 5 being the best. You can use this hashtag manage engine or hashtag desktop central in the social media platforms to spread your love. And if, as I mentioned, for a personalized demonstration, please use the tiny URL mentioned in the slide, and you can raise a request about it. And you can make use of these hashtags in these social media platform, which will really help us and boost us to perform more on the sessions. And thank you again for joining the webinar. Thanks again for your valuable time. Please feel free to contact us via chat or any support modes which is there on the portal. You have live chat, and you'll be able to get in touch with us via call. So support toll-free numbers is there. So you can make use of the support tab and get in touch with our team for any assistance. Thanks, everyone. Take care.